right, going live. Give me just a second and get the word out. And I want to welcome everybody to a brand new Bonnet Chronicles. I am getting started early this week. I also want to thank everybody who was patient with me last week. I had all of this prepared for Friday night, but I was not feeling good. And then these COVID times, I couldn't play around. I was feeling fatigue. I had the sniffles, and my brain said, even if I wanted to talk about this subject, I was not feeling it. And I think it's very important, especially in this day and age, to listen to your body, listen to your brain, and take a break when you need it. A lot of people don't do that. They think I got to push. I need to build my audience. Your audience will be here for you if they care about you. And if they don't, then you know you're not in this for the right reasons. Don't push yourself to do something that you cannot mentally or physically do. And Friday night, as much as I wanted to talk about this topic, I was very, very out of it, tired, and did not feel good. So I'm grateful to those of you who gave support and understood that I needed to take this rest, but I am fired up. And I am definitely thinking about Tuesday nights doing a bit of a shorter version of these Bonnet Chronicles just to focus on upcoming races so that I can remind people of what's important. But Friday nights will always be an hour long, maybe even a little bit longer, depending on the topic. But tonight we are going to talk about our fourth estate because there's been so many issues. As you can see, I already have highlighted an issue that really got me fired up to talk about for Friday. And Homegirl got lucky that I wasn't feeling good because I've been gunning for this young lady for a bit now because of the way I feel she has been navigating being a marginalized person. And no, it's not the person who tweeted this. That's a dear friend of mine. She is showing the harassment that she got from the person that I am going to talk about tonight. But I want to get started on something that I feel is serious because social media is a mess, y'all. As much as I love it, as much as I'm grateful for the people that I've met on social media, it is a mess. A dear friend of mine was accused of something very serious. And I know that we are in the age of Me Too, thank goodness. I come from a place where you could be harassed and nothing happened to the person who was harassing you. So I'm grateful that we have the ability to come forward. But when you make accusations against somebody, when you accuse them of being a predator, especially when it is a man of color and a black man at that, you better have receipts and proof. I stayed quiet this weekend, not only due to not feeling good, but because a lot of this was dropping, and I waited because I wanted to make sure before I went on the defense for one of my friends that it wasn't something bad. And I'm even going to keep it 100. I've still stayed friends with some guys that have been caught stepping in it. One guy, I feel like he's a brother, but he has stepped in it with several ladies online, and I've had to check him, and I even blocked him once before I unblocked him, and we talked about it. I know loneliness is a thing. I know people use the internet to talk to each other, even though everybody tries to act like they're good little boys and girls online. Heck, I met my boyfriend who is now living with me in the online game. I'm not going to act like we did innocent stuff. We talked really raunchy stuff to each other. That's one of the things we liked about each other. But the evidence that was supposedly used against my friend just showed that homegirl was jilted. And then I had another person, and this is what made me pause. This is what made me stop and say, let me see if these allegations are true, because depending on how deep the proof was, I would either tell my friend, I can't mess with you no more, or tell my friend, you need to come correct and apologize so that I can figure out where to go from here. Because I had another friend who just recently stepped in it, who's been in black women's mentions, fucking around in the DMs, who I stayed in contact with because I think, just like every other dude, he doesn't know how not to objectify women, but he's never, and I repeat, he doesn't want to get cussed out, never did that to me. So I am on the opinion of, while what he did was wrong, and I've said as much, I don't know if it's enough for me to block him like everybody else did. And I know a lot of people get mad at me for that shit because Twitter is a bunch of clicks, but I'm not here to tell people who to be friends with. I'm not here to tell people who they can talk to. And we need to get away from that. And the thing with this current situation was I kept waiting for the second person to drop proof, and all she kept doing, besides limiting who could interact with her, was saying, "Oh, you'll change your mind when you see it." And if I have something that definitively shows somebody that is well known as a predator, I am not going to play around with that stuff. I'm not going to tease people where, oh, you'll see it, or only the right people will see it, like some of that bullshit. And then the one lady who started this stuff shows proof of, yes, they talked in DMs like two grown people who were trying to kick it would. And there was nothing that was so inappropriate that I felt the need to even know about this. You're putting your business out there in a way to accuse somebody of doing something serious when it wasn't. And I'm sorry to say it, but it's a certain demographic that pulls this shit way too much. People will say, don't make it about race, but it has to be sometimes. It really comes down to when you're a black person and you're attracted to or talk to somebody who's non-black, especially a white person, you come with the added fear that rejecting them could turn into them telling people stuff like this. And these women were gunning for his reputation, but they added harassment to his girlfriend, who I adore. His girlfriend is one of the most sweetest people I have ever had the pleasure of meeting. And the amount of harassment they have been going through since last year, y'all, has been unacceptable. So I'm starting this cast tonight to say be wary of the shit people put out there. They use their followers to attack these two because they were daring to be happy. They were daring to post pictures of them going to restaurants together and having happy little family moments. And this bitter Becky and her little goon squad of, I don't understand women who do this. You got rejected, move on. You're supposed to be a professional, and you spent months harassing a couple because the man didn't want you. I just honestly cannot stand stuff like that because it's somebody who has survived assault. It's somebody who lives with the fact that my story is always going to be my word versus my attackers because A, I was young. B, I have health issues that people can say, oh, that couldn't have happened to you. I live with the fact that what happened to me will always be my word versus that person. So I don't envy anybody who's harassed online at all. But if you have a direct, definitive proof of harassment, you're not teasing that shit. You're putting it out there so that people know. These people were lying, and I am so sick of it. And there's so many patterns on social media like that. People literally form groups to try to take people down, destroy them. That's why I said it and I mean it. I am very guarded on who I talk to on here, especially dealing with media types. When I was in gaming journalism, I thought that breaching out, talking to people who are in other branches of journalism would help me out. All I've seen is just how ridiculous the field is, especially now. And this week was no example. I'm kind of glad that I couldn't do Friday night because everybody knows what happened yesterday. Our president had a moment that I'm not ashamed of him for. I wish I had the editing, and I probably could have. I wasn't busy that much today. I could have edited all the clips of Douchey. I'm going to call him Douchey, constantly trying Jen Psaki, the press secretary, with the most stupidest asinine questions. And of course, he did it again to the president of all people, and off on a hot mic, the president called him a dumbass. I would have called him worse. I think that people like Douchey tend to do that on purpose. They think it's cute because news is entertainment now. Exactly, G. Feldman. Welcome to the chat. I've always felt like Joe Biden just speaks his mind. He's not coming from a place of malice most of the time, but when you have somebody being that idiotic, yeah, you're going to go from your gut. And all these people get in the vapors because the president there cursed at a reporter when we had, like, I love Salome. She is one of my favorite fellows. And one of the things she said gave me pause because she was like, we literally had a good journalist murdered while Donald Trump was president. And he helped cover it up. He didn't want it to be a big deal. He called our media the enemies to the people. Total fanatical propaganda. But now these people want to act like the president cursing out some Fox News puppet is a bad thing. And that's why I said there are a lot of character actors. So I ask, what is the value of our fourth estate? Because the more I look at it, the less value it has for me. I can get better information hunting through the internet myself now. I can look for news articles that are not opinion based. Big publications like the New York Times lost me because they tout people with opinions more than their actual fact finding articles. And historically speaking, they've been like that for a while. If you really study a lot of the stuff the New York Times has done, especially like just to go back, because I'm going to get to a really heavy topic later on tonight. During 1930s to 1940s Germany was under a very bad regime. And it was up to our newspapers to openly report what was going on. And instead, Hitler was getting puff pieces by the New York Times. This is historically documented. Hitler, Stalin, a whole bunch of people who we know now historically caused nothing but death and destruction for their own people were getting glowing exposés by these newspapers that we're supposed to take seriously now. And they did the same thing for Trump. I think the only thing that stopped Trump was his ineptness. And as we get these new reports on how states were literally trying to come together to give that man an election that he did not earn, because a lot of us turned out to vote against him, it is scary to think that our fourth estate could work towards something like that. But it feels like they're coordinated. And I know we're human beings, and I never want a journalist to feel like they're obligated to only report the good. I think we have to get out of that mindset. But the illusion of fair and balance needs to go somewhere because it's a lie. We have a lot of kids whose parents had a lot of power and influence who are now reporters who are shaping the narrative, trying to create a revolution. I'll tell you something about revolution. Sometimes it's necessary. Historically speaking, revolution has been necessary a lot. But if you think that this adult brain microwave generation that we call America could stage a revolution and build something better, I don't think so. The reason why I work so hard to protect and save our democracy isn't because I don't think something better wouldn't be better for us. It is because I don't think we could make something better. We are not smart enough as we watch people liking keeping themselves safe to a historical horror of the past. We are not wise or selfless enough to build a better society. So no, I cannot trust, especially these young, I want free stuff, fuck everybody else types, to build something from the ashes of democracy they seem to want to burn to the ground. No, I don't trust y'all. So yeah, I'm going to vote in every election that I'm allowed to, and I am going to make sure that our democracy stays in check because it is not a perfect system. But for the patchwork quilt that we call our society, it is what is needed to keep us from falling completely to the wayside. And I am so sick and tired of people acting like, oh, we could just burn it to the ground. And having these trust fund journalists, as I like to call them, act like, yeah, I'm stoking the fires to the revolution. No, no, you're pushing populism. You're pushing a grievance as actual opinion, and you're causing more harm to our country than need to, and it's not okay. And then you have these people in the media who identify as marginalized, as I have here with my friend's tweet about the harassment that she received after she quote tweeted something by Caitlin Burns. And I'm going to say her name, Caitlin Burns, transcribe, because I started out as a fan of transcribe. I, like many other people, felt her plight as she was transitioning all the harassment she was getting online from awful people, which a lot of us marginalized people go through, but trans women especially get vile, hateful things sent to them. So I wanted to support her. I was one of those stands that was like, after they got to a certain threshold and got their verification, was like, well, I gotta drop some of yous, so it's okay. I was like, it don't matter if you don't follow me no more. I just want to support what you did, because I literally believe that Caitlyn was a real deal. And I ignored a lot of her problematic stuff. I ignored the fact that everything she seemed to put out there about herself was victimizing herself. All the threats and stuff. And she's not the only person who got threats. I realized early on not to highlight the nasty stuff people send me, because they're not worth my time. I don't need to make a name for myself by saying this person called me a slur. People know that existing as any kind of marginalized person means you're going to deal with awful people. How you carry yourself through it shows your character. And I realized that I ignored a lot of the red flags that I see constantly on Twitter with Caitlyn, because I wanted to support somebody I thought needed that support. And it bit me in the ass, because Caitlyn is the typical marginalized person who utilizes this status as a shield when they step in it. And Lauren knows that she stepped in it this week and last week, basically. Last week mostly. She tried to defend a tweet which she put out that she got vaccinated during Trump's run, which is impossible. And then when she clarified that she messed up the date because she knew she was lying, she made it seem like anybody who dared challenge her on there was attacking her for her identity. And then she had people like my friend had to go through here with some very vile things said to her, harassing people who dared to say her name out loud. And I'm going to tell you right now, y'all can try me. I will block you. I don't even have to report you, because I don't need your noise in my ear for somebody. And it was the same way with the Cabo crew. I'm going to go to just the camera. It was the same way for the Cabo crew. Those young ladies did not like that I likened everything they were doing after they went on their little pleasure cruise and came back with a coordinated anti-Biden-Harris stance, that I wasn't allowed to say that their ethnicity played a role. But a lot of people will use their marginalized status to shield them from any kind of critique, and shield them when they're called out on fuckery and when you lie against the administration that has been working their ass off. They've only had a year to undo 4 years of awfulness. And some of you are like, it's not fast enough. It's not good enough. They're not giving me what I want. And worse yet, from the Cabo crew, Warren would have. Warren would not have. And if you need to know how I feel about Warren, you can watch last week's Bonnet Chronicles, because I read that little liar a few times. But it's funny how coordinated the attacks on the vice president and the president have been from all these people that are pictured hanging out. And then you got Caitlyn, who I don't even understand her agenda right now. I don't understand what possibly could be her endgame towards acting like Trump was a better president, especially as a transgender woman. If anything, her demographic was a direct target of the Trump-Pence administration. And I don't understand anybody, and my friend Case made so clear, anybody who considers himself LGBTQ+, who thinks fascism would fare well for them. I got a bit of a history lesson for you coming up. Because some of you little cosplay socialists seem to think that in a fascist situation, your lifestyles would just be respected. There is no such thing as benign fascism. And if you understood history, you would understand that. But our fourth estate, the people who are supposed to be giving it to us fair and unbalanced, it's all entertainment to them. And they don't care who gets hurt, because they think they got enough of a cushion. They don't care if we get fascism again, that's very effective, unlike the Keystone Cops that we had under Trump, because they think that they'll be the elites that are protected. But every fascist state has executed press members, especially press members that didn't fall in the line. Some of you think it's cute to continuously relive the bad moments of history, but it's not. And I don't want to see us getting back to that moment. So what can we do? It's hard. Our media knows what buttons to push with us. They know that if they have people sprouting negative opinion, they know if they interview MAGAs who are upset about the election, they know if they show the most gruesome, violent, vile stuff, that gets us talking. And I wish more people realize how simple it is to just turn it off. Don't click on it. Don't give them your attention so that they can see this is not selling. We are hemorrhaging stuff. Sadly speaking, some of them might even think we have to lean more harder into the conservative stuff because they are like clockwork watching their Fox News. But they have been spoon-fed bullshit for so long that they're dying off in droves too. Taking fucking cattle pills when they have little medicine that can help them. I don't want us to end up like Fox News. So I don't want a perfect fourth estate. I understand that human beings work in our press. But I need you to understand that we enable a lot of their bad behavior. If you're tired of seeing pundits who have nothing but negativity, if you're tired of the people not reminding you of your basic civic duties, if you're tired of the rodeo show that some elections are, we need to stop allowing that to be the norm. They do it because they get the viewership. And if you are wasting your time letting them anger up your blood as you watch MSNBC or CNN or any of the local news organizations, or God forbid you watch Fox Propaganda Channel, you have nobody blamed but yourself for that high blood pressure. Turn it off. You can find just as much news, actual verifiable news online with NPR and AP. And it's not perfect, but there are also overseas publications and the BBC that don't have the biases for American news the way our news has. And there are big problems with our media that a lot of people would love to address, but we can't get past the political nonsense. It's why we see so many think pieces about who Biden should pick in 2024 when we're just trying to get through these years. He's 1 year in and you're already speculating for 3 years from now? What is going on? And why are so many papers publishing opinions like they're real articles? These opinion pieces have been hit pieces for years now. And I am so tired of the airtime and the amplification that they get. Because there's no reason for us to be discussing what some weird guy named Friedman thinks about Biden running with Liz Cheney. It's not going to happen. Joe Biden respects Vice President Harris. That's why he picked Vice President Harris. And I know some of you can't stand the fact that a black woman, a black and Asian woman at that, is in that high position of power. But every time you had an ability to make it where that glass ceiling was cracked, y'all flubbed it. Now you need to stand back and watch how black excellence work. We had it with President Obama, and you fucked it up for him too. Because you didn't want to vote. Do your bare minimum in the midterms. And now you got all these people whose job it is to just report the news, trying to influence your turnout. Y'all will have Black Lives Matter and want to talk about the funding of police and voter suppression when you aren't being suppressed. You want to help black voters, you get out and vote so that we can have legislators who see us as people. It really is that simple. And thank you for that, G. Feldman. She is awesome. And I don't know anybody who has been her constituent that was disappointed. There's a lot of people that like to talk about Kamala Harris in the negative thing. And it's mostly people who don't know her. And mostly people who only know side stories that have absolutely nothing to do with her. One of the rumors that they tried to press on her was, oh, she had this black mother arrested. No, she didn't. It wasn't her jurisdiction. And I can tell you, as a mom of a special needs child, as a mom whose child went to school down south, if your child misses so many days of school, and you do not check it with the school and do not have the proper paperwork, they will send child welfare after you at first. And if it's really egregious, like that was with that mother, you could face jail time. And that is a reality of being a parent. You cannot be truant with your child. And if you're not registered as a homeschool, or if your child is not going to a virtual school, you could be in legal trouble for that. So how dare you? And then the other big thing, and I've seen this come back up again, is the backpack thing. And I'm going to tell you something about backpack. The few things I know about that former app, I know that a lot of people who are in sex work, and I have friends who are sex workers, they know I support what they got to do to get their money and take care of their families. I am not anti-sex worker. But when your site is using it to abuse minors, I can't co-sign on that. I hate that something that made it easier for you to deal with your clients got taken away. But you have to look beyond yourself with this. Because while you might have had an easier thing and now there's OnlyFans, there were always ways for you to set up things with your clients. Some of you set it up on Twitter. So you need to miss me with that bullshit about how backpack being taken down was bad for your business. I know that some of you have even had to deal with this since you were minors. So you think, oh, I'm numb to it. I had to deal with it as an underage, so who cares? I care. I don't think underage girls or underage boys should be trafficked on fucking line. And I can't stop all of it, but if there's a very visible site that helps that happen, yeah, it needs to be taken down. And you can get mad at me all you want about this. Like I said, I have never been anti-sex worker because I think it's ridiculous that humans like to put these weird moralistic values to sex anyway. It's a pleasurable experience. People do it. And if you're a prude about it, you're going to end up being weird. But honestly speaking, to ding VP Harris about backpack is so fucking ridiculous when a lot of you knew how bad it was with the trafficking and just didn't care. And that not caring is another reason why I will never trust you fuckers to try to rebuild something if you destroy this democracy. We are a very selfish, entitled nation. Our media doesn't help that, but this attitude has been prevalent for almost the inception. It's why some of y'all's ancestors thought it was okay to bring people over, tell them they were no longer human, and make a whole ton of money and build a nation off their backs and blood. And now you still treat their ancestors like they're less than. That's why fucking Mitch McConnell could say black Americans and Americans, because he wants the distinction. He wants us to feel like we're not true Americans, even though our roots were forcefully implanted here. And you think our media would be having a field day with the former Senate leader. And I love to remind you that he's the former Senate leader. No longer in power, Mitch, no matter how much you try. You could have had a field day with the fact that this old Sith Lord, this Sith taint, as I like to call him, made it clear that to him, African Americans are different from other Americans. And no, we are all Americans. And some of us who don't have to wave a flag to say we're patriots because we have proven that we care about this country, even though this country continues to kick us in the ass. We took the social media to say why we are Americans or why we're not shocked. And I even made a video because I am so tired of people saying, well, he said the quiet part out loud. Y'all tell on yourself when you say shit like that. If you are a white person and you said that Mitch McConnell said the quiet parts out loud, why is it quiet? Do you even realize the implications of saying that line? Especially to a black person. Because it's not quiet for us. I have dealt with racism for over 44 years. It has never been quiet for me. So when I hear a person say, oh, Mitch McConnell said the quiet parts out loud, that means y'all say that behind our back. Or you have enough people in your circle of orbit that say this stuff and you want to be hush-hush on the down low. And I don't trust people like that because it's not quiet. When you are the target of racism, it is always loud and in our faces. And for black and other marginalized people, I am so tired of being othered by people who know. This doesn't resonate with most Americans. It resonates with the people who will back the GOP no matter what because they've become a death cult. So if you don't want to be likened to that side, you need to get out of the vernacular that what Mitch McConnell was saying was the quiet part because it's never been quiet. And I don't know who you were trying to fool with that nonsense, but there is no such thing as benign bigotry in any way, shape, or form. And way too many people think it's cutesy to act like there's benign bigotry, but there's not. Hate is awful, and too many humans are infected with it. And exactly, GFM, I feel that same way. I am so sick of McConnell. I told Greg, if I ever did run for something, my platform would be, let me punch that motherfucker in the face. Because I just can't. My toggle stays on violence for that guy. He pisses me off. One of my friends showed a picture of him just standing gleefully next to a fucker holding the Confederate flag. And it was like, this guy has never left that mindset. And he was in control of our Senate for years. He orchestrated that coup that got him the Supreme Court. It is a fucking mess now. So no matter what work we currently try to get done within our Senate and our House and our presidency, we still got a Supreme Court that could literally tank anything we want. This is what was on the line in 2016, as some of us would call hyperbolic, and actually just made fun of. And hey, Baylor, hey, respect. Seriously, though, I just feel like people acted like it wasn't important until now you see, as they come for women's rights, as they come for voter rights, as they deny the George Floyd policing bill and other things we really need to get done, how important every election is. Not just some, every one of your local elections. We see it on the local level. The way people are storming our school boards. And that's the one thing I will give props to the media because they love that sensationalism. Showing all these parents storming school boards, talking about, you put a mask on my child, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to come in with guns blazing. A guy punching a teacher because his daughter came out with a mask. We are in a fucking pandemic. And then you've got famous people, and I use this term loosely, with ties to political dynasties like Robert Kennedy Jr., alignments to one of the most tragic moments in history. And I'm going to take this latter half to address that because I was pissed this morning. I had already was in a bad mood getting up, that's just a regular 10 thing. But to wake up, get on Twitter, and see a political cartoon of the GOP elephant violating Uncle Sam was already rough. Because rape is not funny. It's not a political gotcha. And if you're a political cartoonist and you can't talk about how the GOP is destroying our democracy without putting that kind of harmful stuff, you're a hack and you shouldn't be in that field. I don't think it's cute or funny. And a lot of these fucking follow back resistors, which I really can't stand. I'm going to talk about that pattern towards the end of this cast. Y'all share this stuff not understanding how bad and triggering a message like that is. It is not cutesy to think of the GOP raping our democracy. Yet that's the message that some of you blue wave emoji fuckers put out there. Also, you can get a bunch of followers and have an echo chamber. No, it's not okay. So I was already surly. And then I seen Cheryl Hines' apology first. And I was like, oh, Lord, why is she apologizing for her husband? I knew she was married to the Kennedy boy. And I was like, okay, let's see how bad it was. I was not expecting it to be that bad, but Lord. I knew her husband was an anti-vaxxer, which I just don't understand that mindset in this day and age, but it is what it is. People say it's free will. I think it's just dumb. But to liken your government asking you to do something to keep your life safe to the Holocaust, unacceptable. I'm a marginalized person. I know that Black history is already brutal because I actually studied it. I don't play around like some of these people that only get tidbits of pieces of I Have a Dream every February. I learned our raw history, personal and beyond. But I also was lucky that back in the 90s, I had a teacher, Mr. Kudik, one of my favorite teachers of all time, because he told me real history is not in the pages of these texts. And he nearly got lost his job because he taught us a full on, unvarnished history of the Holocaust. How everything Hitler did was legal. How he started with the handicap as a testing ground to euthanize. How he was very virulent about the Jewish citizens. These weren't strangers. These were literal German citizens that he was supposed to be their leader too, that he turned people on because he wanted scapegoats in his perfect little Aryan kingdom. He turned neighbor versus neighbor, and he had every legal precedent to do this. He was a monster, but he was a monster that had puff pieces from the New York Times showing him with his dogs. Okay? What he did to his own citizens was monstrous. He deemed their lives expendable, and he murdered millions of Jewish citizens. These were not strangers. These were not invaders. These were his own people that he just decided were unworthy. And he did it to LGBT. He did it to Romani people. He did it to any German that didn't fit their aesthetics. So when you liken that horrible moment of human history to somebody caring enough about your dumbass surviving by saying, please get your vaccine, please mask up, we want to stop this virus from spreading, you are an ignorant asshole. And I don't have any other words for you besides that. I don't care how people take this anymore. Because when you invoke something as painful as the Holocaust, you don't have to be Jewish to understand how deeply harmful that is. All you have to have is a brain in your head. It is beyond anti-Semitic at this time. It is so asinine to even make that parallel. And I get that there are times when you can bring up that moment in history. When Trump first took power, I feared, because of all the propaganda, because of all the stuff that he was doing, because of the fucking literal camps that he was putting migrants in, that we were heading towards those days again. It is okay to see parallels when your government are doing things that are legally damaging. But to say that when the government is asking you to get a vaccine to save your life, that is on par to 6 million innocent souls being murdered by their government, how fucking dare you? How dare you? I do not. And Cheryl Hines, as much as I have enjoyed your work, I have loved you as an actress for a long time. You've been a joy. A lot of your comedies have made me laugh and smile. But you can't be standing up for your husband's words like that and act like, oh, well, it's not how I feel, because like my grandmother said to me as a child, and this stuck with me, you are who you associate with. If you are friends with somebody who is a harmful, hateful person, if you are married to somebody who spreads such propaganda, that sticks to you. Whether you feel the same way or not, you are a public figure, your husband is a public figure, and he is out there not only disrespecting Anne Frank of all people, but liking and keeping his ass safe to the worst moment in human history. And I say that as a direct descendant of slaves. I know my history is horrible. I know that we will probably never know all the horrors of Black history because everybody wants a sanitized version of it. Even as Black History Month comes up, we have wackadoos who don't want to learn the true history of our country. But when I say, as a historian, our darkest moment in history was the Holocaust, that's not hyperbolic to me, because everything fucking Hitler and his Third Reich did was set legally. And they they made their citizens into this mob that just accepted it and went along with it. They were literally taking children to not only fight in wars, but knock up little girls. Because in their wet dreams, little girls would just be perfect Aryan baby makers. Nazi Germany was hell, not just for Jewish citizens. And I was so glad that my teacher, who really risked his job, he got in trouble for giving us this. Like, it was completely unpolished, but he broke it down. How this started, how everything Hitler did was done through the system so that it couldn't be stopped until the World War broke out. And if that idiot hadn't declared war and tried to annex other countries, God knows how far this would have went. So I need you to understand why it is completely unacceptable to ever liken getting a vaccination to the Holocaust. It disrespects so many people who didn't get to make it. Their descendants who are still here trying to struggle through what their people went through. And it dulls the voices of people who really went through something while you pretend to be persecuted for having a government that actually cares if you live. And that is the big difference between what we have right now and what a lot of our ancestors went through. Because a lot of our ancestors went through governments who didn't care if we were here or not, who didn't see us as people. You have a government that wants to roll out a vaccine to keep your dumbass here, and you're likening it to the worst moment in human history? Get the fuck out of here. It's unacceptable. No problem. Do you feel me? It just bothers me when people deny others' humanities, but especially when people take something so dark in history. So many people don't even want to understand how awful and brutal the Holocaust was, yet they invoke it so much, and it bothers me. And I know that I am not a Jewish person, so I cannot speak from y'all's perspective on this, but I have enough sense in my head to understand the differences between a government that says, hey, we want y'all to be safe, please do these guidelines to be safe, and a government that literally wanted to exterminate citizens because they used them as scapegoats. It just kills me that people don't understand that. And there has been too much anti-Semitism going around for a while now. And calling it out is really hard because I am not a Jewish person. But if I feel I can do it respectfully, I'm going to do it. Because it's unacceptable. I know my friends would do it for me when they hear anti-black stuff. And I'm not going to not have my friends' backs on this. It's upsetting to me to have people liken this vaccine rollout to something like that. When we have governments that are literally committing atrocities, they're talking about war again because Ukraine is dealing with a Putin problem yet again. Everybody's upset because they think, oh, we're going to war again. And it's like, we don't know. Yeah, they're talking about deploying troops, but there is no set thing that we're going to war, but that's the new hyperbole. And even if we do, this is the kind of games we have to deal with other world leaders. There are literal other world leaders committing atrocities on a regular basis, legally. None of them are still as bad as our historical past. Because we are now in the day and age where we can see what they're doing, shine a light on what they're doing, and try to stop the ingrained brainwashing that they try to do. And we have seen it here, how ingrained the brainwashing. They had men like Rush Limbaugh. They have people like Fox News. They have guys like Joe Rogan who help stir this toxic cocktail of Fox patriotism and bullshit that keeps people from doing sensible things like keeping themselves safe from COVID. They want to wave a flag as they hate everybody around them, including themselves. And I don't understand it. But I see how easy it is to make people good little foot soldiers for fuckery. So I call all of this out, and I call people who have platforms who don't call this out, because we are in dangerous times. The digital age is our new Wild West. It is the new frontier. People are trying to monetize it. You see it all the time with the Bitcoins and the NFTs. And I'm going to say it again. until any of those things are federally backed by a country, miss me with it. Don't slide in my DMs asking me to use my platform for that. I'm not interested because I have a background in finance. I know we are going to get to a point where money has to be more digitized, especially since globally it's more easy to spread currency. But until it's federally backed, don't waste your real money in something that might not give. Because right now, for me, and I've seen this pattern, so I'm calling it out. The only way to have a lucrative sway in any NFT or Bitcoin is to get something, hype it up, pump and dump it. I know it seems like a gross analogy, but it's the best way I could put it. You pump it up, you hype it up, you get enough people to invest in it, and then you take the money and run. So, like I said, I know a lot of young people because they are digitally connected. Y'all want this to happen. And if you get it, good for you. But right now, I'm talking to you older people, the ones that actually have the money. Be mindful because you're going to take your federally backed currency and put it into something that isn't backed, and then you ass out when somebody else runs off with your money. Be careful. There are a lot of scammy things online. It's hard. I see it all the time with the internet. All these groups that form all the time. Social media is a mess with that. You know, you get one person that's really charismatic, really like leader like, and then you follow them into the gates of hell, and you've got to be careful with that. People will sway you to be their cheerleader when they aren't worth cheering for. I've seen so many people form hate mobs against other people for simply having a difference of opinion. And we've got to get out of that mindset. I don't want everybody to like everybody. I realize that about myself. I'm in New York. There are plenty of people I don't like. I just don't mess with them. I don't have to get my friends against them because I am not a dictator. I want people to be friends with who they want to be friends with. And if I don't like somebody, that's between me and them. But some of you fall right into that mob mentality, and it's dangerous. It can be exploited, and it is. And in this new digital frontier, especially, you have people coming for your money. You have people coming for your sanity sometimes. You have people that want you to swear loyalty to them just for being a follower. And I'm telling you, if you follow me, your best bet is to have your own opinion. We're not always going to see eye to eye, but it takes a lot for me to unfollow and block people now. The last person I did was a day ago, but that person, as I said in the beginning of this cast, brought it on themselves. You don't call somebody a predator, put out that you have information to prove that this person's a predator, knowing this person's well loved, knowing this person has friends, and then show nothing and get mad at people for saying, you have not shown us anything, or telling us we're not the right people to show it to. No, it don't make sense. And there are a lot of people playing those kind of games because it's fun and games for them to destroy lives. And some of you jump right in on the bandwagon. And I have been saying this for years. You got to stop amplifying certain people. There are certain trolls that they look for people to argue with. They get like a dopamine hit seeking you out. And a lot of you make it easy because you have pro Biden or pro Harris or pro whatever banner in your name, and they seek you out. And my thing is, I used to do it too until I realized, why am I a grown woman arguing with an anime avatar? This person isn't serious. They would never step to me with that controversial take in their real name. And the few that do look like they have never shaved or left their mother's home. I am not going to argue with the kiddie table of politics on why they think a communist utopia would be better for us. No, thank you. And some of you argue with these trolls that are obviously trying to get you go. They are not worth it. And they want your amplification because I've seen the patterns. Like I told Reese about this a while ago, Black Women View. She is a prime target for these types. They will get into her mentions, argue with her because they know she has a well-known platform now. Say, look at that K-Hive member arguing with me. Buy my books. Or this is my Twitch channel. Or this is my YouTube channel. And I am not saying this to ding anybody's bag because that's what I do on here myself. But I am not going to argue with somebody to get attention to me. This is the kind of stuff they do. They act just like the little populist senator from Vermont. Anything controversial and angering to get people's attention onto them. And it works because so many of you do it still. There is no reason why I should know about that basement troll Brianna Joyless Gray. And I call her joyless because she is never happy. She is never going to be happy because she tried to go from a Twitter troll to a serious press secretary and she couldn't handle it. And she stepped in it big time. And now she's back to being a troll. And that's all she has going for her is constantly talking about how bad things are when she knows it's not. I shouldn't see her. I blocked her years ago. Yeah, people keep screen capping her, arguing with her. Stop bringing up her name. She'll have even less relevance, y'all. There are way too many people who try to play games in our society, and we have got to stop helping their grift. We made a joke yesterday in the spaces, and I'm starting to like spaces now. I'll be honest with you. At first, I wasn't going to mess with them. I'm old. I don't like a lot of the newfangled stuff, and I was not going to mess with spaces. But I've been in there a couple of times now, and it's been fun. And last night, we got to talking about certain political things, like things we might have regretted as we've navigated, political talk. Because a lot of us do have platforms where we talk social issues and stuff. And I was honest, I don't regret anybody I've called out. If I get to the point where you're interested enough for me to call out, you should feel honored. Because for the most part, I'd rather ignore your existence. There are plenty of marginalized people that use that status as a shield, who do really shitty, awful things, knowing that their adjacency to power is more important to them. So my way of not helping them get that bag is to not engage or give them any relevancy. Some of you don't seem to understand that. You help their careers when you fight with them. You help get them spotlight when you give them attention. That room was so much fun. And I realized that the way I call people out isn't for everybody. I had to lose a follower who got mad at me calling Chris Christie a fat fuck. I don't take that back. I'm from Staten Island. I have not a high opinion of Chris Christie. It doesn't make me fat phobic. I'm a fat lady myself. Never hid that. And if you see something I say towards a politician in you, I don't know what to tell you. I wasn't even talking to you. I honestly didn't even remember that person existed. So, bye. And I've always been of the mindset. It's why I don't heavily advertise this channel. It's why I don't heavily advertise my YouTube channel. Just like Twitter, I want things to build organically. I want people to come if they want to come. I want people to follow if they want to follow. I never want anybody to feel like they're beholden to follow me. I've never liked that mentality. And I've seen that a lot too. These are not tools to me. I don't care about being famous. And I know that's weird to say as a writer. I would rather whatever I put out there be remembered. I don't care if people know about me. The fact that people want to hear what I say and read my tweets floor me sometimes. But I'm not out there to put myself out there like that. And I know it's weird because we live in the age of influence. We live in the age where people will fucking gather hundreds of thousands of you just to get a blue check and then treat you like minions. I don't want to do that. Yous are people. Yous are human beings. And I am grateful to everybody who follows me. But I really want things to grow naturally. I want you to know, hey, she does this, let me stop in. Or, hey, she does this, let me catch it on YouTube if I miss it live. It is not, it just irks me when people try to force a quick growth. I don't want a quick growth. I didn't have a quick growth with Twitter. I started Twitter back in 2010, I believe. I've been on Twitter a long time. I told y'all last Bonnet Chronicles. I didn't even want the freaking account. It was for my job in gaming journalism. I started out talking about stuff, Thank you, respect. Fucking Staten Island, man. Ugh. But as I develop friendships, as I develop ties with Twitter, it has become a home away from home for me. So as I've watched it grow, I realized that every single person that hit that follow button, even though I didn't follow everybody back because yes, I screen and I see the hate followers, and you ain't get a follow back from me. I don't want you in my DMs. And some of you are just weird, and I don't want to follow you back. And I'm sorry if you don't want to. You want to take that follow back? Go ahead. If I screen you and I don't hit that follow button back, it's you, not me. I'm 100% about that. But for those of you that I did click on that back, it's because I want to see what you have to say. It's because I don't always agree, but I respect what you have to say. And I think it's important for social media to be that social. I don't see those numbers as an elevation of myself. I see that as a community that wants to discuss things, a community that wants to share things, a community that's pictures of amazing pets and recipes and so many good things. And there are too many people that exploit that. That's why I side eye all of these resistors still and all these follow back resistance parties on Twitter right now. Because what the fuck are you resisting currently? Unless you are organizing for our upcoming elections, I don't want to hear any more political talk from the people that are just trying to gather a large following. That's a red flag for me. You need to be focused on what you're going to tweet, whether you got one person following you or a million. Because I am so tired of people using other human beings as stepping stools to whatever influence you think you're going to have. It is exhausting. And I've seen way too many people utilize a grift, way too many people hurt people, and way too many potential friendships fractured due to the games people play on social media. Y'all need to be mindful of who you amplify. And I want you to check me. I do not act like I can't get things wrong. I will apologize if I get things wrong. I will correct myself, and I want people comfortable correcting me. And I want you to not be afraid. And I realized I put out something the other day that I was just feeling. And I'm going to wrap it up with this, but honestly saying, 50, 60 years ago, there were plenty of Americans in this country that are now considered white that know that their ancestors had to strip a lot of their cultural identity to ascribe to the so-called whiteness that makes them proper foot soldiers for this racist fuckery now. And I had somebody who I like, who follows me, try to get on me about what I meant about culture. You know, because they couldn't separate the point I was making about whiteness from culture. There are plenty of cultural ties to people. You can be a white person raised around all black people and have black culture, whether people want to believe that or not. Culture is just traditions that have been passed down, depending on your region, depending on the people you've grown up around. That's what I meant by culture. And there are a lot of cultured people who weren't considered white. Italian people, Jewish people, Irish people, and Asian people especially, both Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, and all other forms of Asia that were considered non-white by census. Some of these groups got pulled onto the white people bus and now act like virulent racists. That was the point I was making. Welcome to the chat, Terry and Tico. And I feel like the person that tried to ding me didn't understand the point I was making about culture. So I tried to explain it to them as other people jumped on them. And I cannot control when other people jump on you. And I try to have people refrain from it. But the point you were trying to push about culture took away from the point I was making, that there are a lot of people that think adjacency to whiteness is so important that they don't care that they had to culturally strip their Italianness. They had to culturally strip their Irishness. They don't want to think about not so far away in our own country's history. There were literal signs saying no Irish apply to these jobs. No Asians apply to this job. That we literally had a government that took Asian Americans and put them in the concentration camp here. Our country hands are not clean from atrocities to people who now feel a kindred to these weirdos who think their lack of melanin makes them better people. And if they were so much better, why are they so angry and hateful all the time? You can't fool me. You're supposedly the master race, yet everything you do is so craven and miserable. And you're always so angry and it comes through your pores. So, like, what is the bonus of that? And I know it's not all of you because I have plenty of friends, the man I love, who are just delightful to be around. For those of you who subscribe to that hateful, I'm better than you because I can't tan well in the sun. I don't get it. You will never convince me that your lifestyle is better at all. As you cosplay and act like terrorists disguised as patriots. No, not on my watch. And then those of you who know that if push came to shove and all the people that you think were problematic were gone, you would be the next problematic group. That was the point I was trying to make. Because that is the reality of this situation. The sad fact is, to a racist, anybody who's supposedly not pure, and FYI, some of those assholes aren't pure either, because there's no such thing, yous are underneath them. And we as humans got to get away from these weird societal structures anyway. I would love for us to be better educated. I would love for us to get away from this need to prove ourselves, but that comes with education too, and proper education, not a graded system that stacks our kids against each other. There's so much that we need to overhaul that we have been using since colonial times and beyond that does not work for us anymore. We are an ever-changing world. And our system of education needs to change with that. Our system of how we treat each other needs to change with that. But the people who want power and will hold onto it with every fucking firm grasp, they don't care. It worked for them, supposedly. So who cares if the rest of us are miserable? Who cares if people are still struggling in a day and age where technology makes it should be better for all of us? Humanity, we are our own worst enemies when it comes to things being better. And all it comes to doing that is making yourself a better person. You can't go out changing people. I learned that the hard way. My best bet in making this world a better place is to work on the person I see in the mirror every fucking day. And it's not easy. I had to unlearn, and I'm still unlearning a lot of bad things that I used to carry and do. That's another thing, being honest about the old Tim, so that I don't continue to do those things. But a lot of people, you don't want to reflect. And until you're willing to take those steps, you cannot complain about the way this world is. Because this world is a mirror and it reflects all the selfishness, all the refusal to really look yourself in the mirror, all the things that you hold on to that have no matter, while you push away the stuff that does. And until people start working on yourself, your self-value, what you want to learn in life, because you should never stop learning, especially in this day and age where learning can be at your fingertips. Things aren't going to get better. And when we have people who are in influential positions, media positions, that just want to keep the status quo going, the value of our fourth estate is beyond repair. There is no value to it as far as I'm concerned. Because when you have the people who are supposed to be helping the situation by reporting what's going on, when you can't even find out certain news topics because the person that it's about isn't white enough. We have a young lady who was literally murdered. They know who did it to her. He's not facing any jail time and the media hasn't said anything. Yet we heard for weeks about Gabby Petito, who's abused by her boyfriend, whose story was horrific, but because she looked a certain way. And that's a big problem within our media. Who they report, who's worthy of a news segment. And if we want that to change, we have got to stop tuning in. Eventually, they'll get it together, or a news publication that actually wants to report factual stuff will come up, and they will get our ratings. But until then, You've got to tune out the infotainment because that is all our media has become now. And whether they like it or not, that even goes for our sister girls who got time to go to Cabo and kiki it up, all the while to come around with a coordinated effort to destabilize our democracy. And whether they like me to say that or not, if you're not using your platform to remind people of their local duties that could help our national administration pass things, you are a chaos agent. I'm not here to make friends, y'all, honestly speaking. And I don't care about a famous person liking or blocking me or whatever. I think it needs to be called out when somebody's using their platform to cause harm. And there are way too many marginalized people that go, you can't say that about me. Look at all the racists that attack me. Look at all the haters that attack me. I do not want to take away from somebody who's getting hate. I know that both things can be true. You can be the target of bigots and still be doing your part to harm us all. Look at Sean King. Don't tell me that grifter doesn't do his part to not only push black torture porn, but to grift and hurt people in our community. But he does get a lot of hate. But the hate he gets from ignorant people doesn't cancel out the fact that he does bad things. And way too many people pull that. Way too many people will do something awful and say, you can't get mad at me. Look at all the hate I get. No, unacceptable. And it is respect. The media is trash because there are way too many people who utilize their positions in media to spread whatever bullshit. They don't care if it hurts people. They don't even care if it's factual sometimes. And then they give a apology when they put out a lie and act like, well, who cares? And then what Caitlyn did, to get back to her before I wrap this up, to say that she holds Biden to a higher standard. This mindset has been way too prevalent. The fact that Democrats are held to a higher standard is unacceptable. Every politician should be held to a high standard. You can't be giving the GOP a pass because they're just idiots anyway. They shouldn't be in power then. If you can't hold every single politician to the same level of accountability, you don't need to be in journalism. It is so unforgivable that that was the excuse that this young lady made to why she could lie against this administration, get called out, and say, I was just being passionate because I want this administration to do its best. No. I don't know who you're trying to fool with this stuff, but I wasn't born yesterday, and you can't sell me a bridge in Brooklyn with your bullshit. We really need to hold these people accountable and don't let them, they try to deflect all the time. Oh, you're being transphobic. No, I'm calling out your lies. And keep it factual when you confront. Because she'll probably block you eventually. You don't have to personally attack somebody to say, this is a lie. You're lying against this administration and keep it like that. Her name is Caitlin Burns. She goes by Transcribed. And she's one of the many journalists, and I use that term loosely for a lot of these people, because you got like live action Millhouse Walker Bragman who does this shit too, who are just anti this administration. Because in their mind, they can create some weird socialist utopia with their bullshit, and no. And the fact that she put out there that she holds this administration to a higher set of standards, every politician should be held to a higher set of standards. I've seen that shit way too prevalent with the last fucking guy. That they were saying, well, it's Trump, you get what you get. That's unacceptable. He was supposed to be the leader of our nation. You're giving us, you get what you get? Unfucking acceptable. And we've got to stop allowing that to be the narrative. Oh, we've got to hold Dems to higher accountability. No, every single politician. Because they're supposed to be our voice. And if they're not doing their job, I don't care if they got a DRR by their name or a very rare I by their name. They need to be held to the same exact standards. When they do their job, a praise. When they don't do their job, a call out. But what we're not going to do is keep acting like the GOP can't be called out, spotlight on their awfulness. And we need to have more people using their platforms to talk about races in their local elections because it's important. We see what's going on in Virginia right now, right before Black History Month. We have a literal governor talking about, I'm developing a hotline where you can call and report any teacher that's teaching a criteria that's harmful to our little white kids. Come on now. You don't have to be a history buff, but anybody who knows history can see the parallels of having a government official want a hotline where you can report teachers. What the fuck is going on? Seriously, y'all. All y'all had to do in Virginia was turn out and you didn't. And now you have Northam for 4 years. And he is going to do his worst. So y'all need to brace and you need to plan for when you get him the fuck out. And Texas, you've got stuff coming up. Pennsylvania's got stuff coming up. Florida has things coming up. Here in Michigan, we've got stuff coming up. We need to be on ball this year. Because like I said, they have been predicting a low turnout for the midterms for a while now. And we need to shut that fucking narrative up. So if you aren't enacting your continuous voter plan, not just for 4 years. I like to call it a 4-year plan because I really want to support this administration. But once you're the age of voting, you should have a consistent plan for getting out to the ballot and being informed. It's your right. And there are plenty of people that don't want you exercising it, that would love to take it from you, depending on what ethnic group you're from. Exercise your voice. Or don't get mad when somebody takes it from you along with your reproductive choice and every other right they can strip. Some of you think it would be cute to live in some kind of fascist utopia. There's no such thing. Those two words don't go together. And you need to stop amplifying that fallacy. It is not a reality. As somebody who studied history, as somebody who's watched so many regimes, all it brings is death, chaos, and misery. And I don't want that. So I'm going to get ready to wrap this up because it's been over an hour. I thank you all so much for joining me tonight. I will definitely be back on Friday with the new Bonnet Chronicles. And then Tuesday night, I really do think I'm going to do a shorter format of this that focuses on certain elections, on candidates who are running. There are so many amazing candidates that are doing spaces. I just want people to know that we need to take this serious. And I know our media can be a big influence in our lives, but when you are constantly feeling angry and negative, you have to know why. You have to understand that this is what they want. They want that manufactured outrage. They want you upset. I want you to have hope. This is what news is supposed to be about. It's supposed to keep you informed, but it's not supposed to make you so upset with the world that you can't think of anything else, and that's all that they seem to want to sell us. So I'm no longer buying, and I hope the rest of you join me in that. Get your media in short doses and turn those channels off because they are nothing but infotainment at this point, and it's not good infotainment. And a lot of times it's not factual either. But I will be back on Friday. I love y'all all so much. I am going to wrap this up, and I will definitely see you. What do you want, dear? Uh-oh. Definitely take self-care breaks. It is so important. Axiom, what do you want? I'm about to wrap this up. I want to put this song in everybody. Oh, Lord, here we go. He's been itching. It's been a few days. Thank you all for tuning up. I really love y'all. Thank y'all all so much, and I will see you next week. Love y'all. Good night.